safe and warm. We apologize for pushing through with the meeting, but as you heard the last time, time is of the essence, and we consulted on a lot of our partners in this, and we were not going to be able to meet some of our deadlines at the state level if we didn't have a meeting. And the good news about this meeting is that there are no votes or anything that come about at this point, so we appreciate your attendance. And as committee members, understand that at any time you guys can give feedback, but if you are a visitor not on the committee, please understand that the way this is designed, that feedback is not permitted at this time until the public forum opens after this meeting has concluded. I want to introduce again our facilitator, Mr. Pete Galloway, who is online with us, former superintendent of Graves County, who does this regularly across the state. He will help keep us in line and moving forward, so I want to introduce him as you see him there. I also want to take a moment to call the meeting to order. This is the LPC, our second meeting for an amendment of the district facilities plan. So I'm going to, before we go any further, I'm going to call the roll as we have to do. It's a little more tedious when we're virtually represented here. So please respond if you are able to confirm your attendance. Kylie Bashir.
Here.
Matt Bashir.
Here.
Dr. Beth Beverly.
Present.
Sheila Carter. Sheila Carter. Wendy Eves.
I'm here.
Steve Falk. Here. Peter Hughes.
I'm here, sir.
Travis Ipox. Travis Ipox. George Jones. Here. Ryan McGuire. Ryan McGuire. Scott Moore. Scott Moore. Tina Payton.
I'm here.
Chuck Shockley. Chuck Shockley. Amy Smith.
Here.
Eric Stone.
Here.
Lenise Stone.
I'm here.
Megan Teal.
I'm here.
John Wells.
Here.
Did I say Reynolds?
Also here.
Kia Ziba. Kia Ziba. Scott Moore, have you been able to log on? I believe he's trying to connect. Okay. While we're waiting on Mr. Moore to connect, anybody that has not been called out, you are a visitor. As I look through here, I know we've got our presenting partners, architect firm, Andrew Owens and Justin McElfresh.
Yes, sir.
I see John Osborne. I see.
Yes, I'm here.
Mark Rawlings, Lori Harrison. Jan Ritchie. Damon Fleming,
I'm here.
Edie Tate, Shannon Embry,
Here.
Drew Taylor, behind the scenes technology guru. Here. Mr. Moore, can you confirm you're online with us?
Yes, sir. Finally.
Right, good deal. Anyone else that I have not called? As we do have to keep a record of all in attendance.
I don't think I heard you say my name, Mr. Klein. Jennifer Hibbs.
You were on the other page. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Speaking up, Ms. Hibbs. Okay. Last call. Anyone else? Okay. At this point, I sent everyone on the committee the minutes from the last meeting. If you would please, we do need approval of that. So can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll give you a motion.
We got a motion from Eric Stone.
I'll second.
I need a second. Mr. Moore.
Yes, sir.
All those opposed? Okay, the minutes have been approved from the previous meeting. Those were sent to you previously, and those will be posted on our webpage. And there is a dedicated webpage to this process. So we have it as a link on our website, and it is available. The recordings of these meetings, as well as minutes and processes, are all documented on that webpage. So that is public access for anything through this process. Mr. Galloway, before we move on, is there anything that you would like to say in directing us throughout this meeting?
No, I would just say that at our last meeting, we asked the architects to come back with, after the discussion, to come back to us with a draft, something to start on that would enable us perhaps to move forward and get to use some of the funds that have become available just of late. And so I would think, Mr. Klein, at this point, that we would ask Sherman Carter Barnhart if they would move forward with presenting us with what they have come up with over the last week or so.
Absolutely. I sent that draft out to you, and I want to be transparent. I had intended on sending that draft earlier, but to try to expedite this process, one of the things that we're trying to do is to let the Kentucky Department of Education know in advance when they're going to get things submitted to them. So it's always better to let them have eyes on it on the front end. So that happened, and we got that draft back at minutes before I sent it to you all today. Minutes. So as soon as we got it, we turned it around and sent it out to you guys. So let's welcome our partner architects, Justin McElfresh and Andrew Owens from Sherman Carter Barnhart Architects, to tell you a little bit about that document. Mr. Taylor, if you would allow them to share their screen, or if they need some assistance sharing the screen, gentlemen, please let us know. But that document looks like this with draft across it.
Good evening, everyone. This is Andrew Owens with Sherman Carter Barnhart Architects. Also, as Mr. Klein mentioned, I have Justin McElfresh from our office, who's one of our principals with me. I appreciate the time to be with you guys tonight, and I would like to talk you through what you're looking at on the proposed revised DFP. I want to frame this a little bit before we start to just remind everyone briefly of what we talked about last time and some of the tasks that we were identified with, or we were tasked with, and some of the items that we identified in our last meeting. So as Mr. Klein discussed last time, I've had the opportunity to be in every one of the facilities in the district over the last few months. And one of the tasks that we had was to determine which facilities, both through the use of a software called Asset Planner and through observations on site, which of your facilities were the most problematic from an operations and maintenance, as well as from a potential renovation perspective. As we discussed in the last meeting, the three facilities that we identified as the most problematic for those purposes were South Hopkins Middle School, Earlington Elementary School, and the West Hopkins School. So in this district facility plan, our intent is to do what we can with the funding available that Mr. Rawlings talked to us about last time to alleviate as much of the district's potential need for renovation, as well as their ongoing operations cost going forward. And so what we have proposed within this would fit within the available funds should the district and the board choose to go forward, and would accomplish some of the goals that were set out in the beginning of this process and making some of these facilities operate more smoothly and to alleviate some of those upcoming costs. So what you're looking at is the amendment to the current DFP. All of the changes and the way that the amendment process work, all of these changes will be indicated in a bold blue font. And I'm going to take you kind of top to bottom. If there are questions as we go through this process, or Justin, if you'd like to add anything, by all means, please do so. But in the interest, again, of making these facilities that are the most costly to operate more efficient, we would designate South Hopkins Middle School as well as Earlington Elementary School as transitional centers, meaning that we would not be able to spend bonded funds on the continued improvement of those. And the strategy that we would recommend would be to operate Southside Elementary School, which is in good condition and is suitable for this type of renovation and addition, to be a permanent preschool through 8 center. That would mean moving the middle school component of South Hopkins Middle School to that facility, and some additional infill of students. We would also bring some kids over from Earlington Elementary School as a part of that process to create a larger preschool through 8 center. That would fall, as I scroll down through here, that would mean that under capital construction projects, which is our priority 2, we would get rid of the things that would relate to facilities that are now marked transitional. So that's some of the changes that you'll see on here. The potential renovation of Earlington Elementary School, as well as renovation of South Hopkins Middle School, would go away on the district facility plan, because as a transitional facility, we're not spending funds on those. And we would recommend that we renovate Southside Elementary School to bring that into model program compliance as a what KDE has identified as an 875 student preschool through 8 center. What you see under item 10 here is the construction criteria that would be required to bring that facility into compliance as that type of facility. Justin, anything to add on those points?
No, I think you've summarized them well, Andrew. There is a highlighted portion there, and you'll see in red it says 33,449 square feet. That is just some feedback we received back late this afternoon from the Department of Education, just outlining the maximum program area addition to the facility that they would allow as part of the district facility plan.
So any questions on that portion before I go on to some of the other items later on in the district facility plan that we're proposing as a draft? If there are not, I'll go on through here. Working down into page 3, also under capital construction priorities number 4, one of the things that we've identified through conversations with the district is that there is the potential to, rather than constructing a new central office, which is significantly more expensive, that an existing facility might be found and purchased and renovated to meet the needs of a new central office. That was one of the other facilities that is a non-instructional facility that is one of the greatest renovation and operating needs in the district. And so to offer the district the flexibility of potentially purchasing a facility and renovating it as opposed to the more expensive option of constructing a facility, we would recommend this change as well. And then the final item that we talked about or that we changed on here is under the discretionary construction projects. And these 2 items already exist on the district facility plan, but we're adding a little bit more language to that. So under item 2 and item 3, this is at Hopkins County Central High School as well as at Madisonville North Hopkins High School. The construction of an auxiliary gymnasium was already an identified district facility plan item in the district. But as a result of obviously what the community has experienced recently, we would consider adding the component of a storm shelter to those auxiliary gymnasiums. And the thought behind that, in addition to just some good dual purposing of an auxiliary gymnasium, is that those are the largest facilities in the district. And in terms of spending money on trying to make kids safer in the event of a storm, this would give more kids than any 2 other facilities in the district the opportunity to shelter in a code-approved storm shelter in the event of severe weather while they are at school. So you can see there's an update to the square footage. Those would be a little bit larger than they were initially in order to house all of the kids within the school in a school day, as well as updating that cost in the last column. Anything to add on that, Justin?
No, I think you've done a good job summarizing those, Andrew.
Happy to answer questions. If there are questions about how we arrived at some of these ideas or the thought processes behind them. And if we don't have questions, Mr. Galloway, Mr. Klein, I will certainly throw back to you guys as well.
I do have one question for you, Andrew. Under the new construction at Hopkins County Central and Madisonville North Hopkins.
Yes, sir.
They are listed in category 5, which is discretionary. So are we satisfied that we will be able to use some portion of the funding that we're talking about to be able to construct both of those auxiliary gym shelters?
So the reason that these, and you'll see the little bit of blue underneath those, the reason that these are listed in category 5 is that they are facilities that, or they are spaces that are model program spaces, meaning that they're on KDE's list. But those facilities are large enough that we do not have the opportunity to enlarge them further in adding these model program spaces. So their new construction, that little note under their new construction in excess of maximum permitted gross area, meaning these facilities are too large for us to put this within category 2. So they would not be eligible based on the gross area of the existing facilities to use bonded funds. But it is our understanding from the guidance that we've heard from the state as well as federal sources that these would be eligible for the use of ESSER funds, which, as we talked about last time, is one of the reasons that this LPC is reconvening, because we have a new funding source that was not anticipated as of the last time we had discussions with an LPC.
That's exactly what I thought. Thank you. I just wanted to be sure.
Of course. And I think one thing that I didn't mention, and I think is important, were the storm shelters to be constructed at Hopkins County Central as well as Madisonville North Hopkins. The idea beyond just having a safe haven for students during the school day is that those could be available as community storm shelters in the event that there was severe weather.
Mr. Klein, do you have comments?
Sorry, I almost unmuted myself, just habit of being on Zoom. Not used to having the speaker out here in front of me. This is a lot to absorb. It's a lot to take in when you're thinking about it. And I'm sure, Mr. Galloway, that you will help us as we negotiate this process to understand, again, the LPC's role in moving forward with this. So can you remind us as to what our role is with this portion of when we get this kind of an information?
I'll do my best. The LPC, according to the statute, because you are a cross-section of the community, of the county, not only is it school people, but it's business people. And so the idea is to get input from everyone when there needs to be change, when there needs to be updates, when there needs to be something different done. And it appears that because of, number one, the funding, and number two, the condition of some of the facilities that we're talking about, that we're at that point. And so the process is we would need to approve this draft and then KDE, and then send it to KDE, at which time they're going to look at it again to be sure that everything that is in the new plan, the amendment, follows the guidelines that they will allow. And then at the next meeting, and there will likely be a change or perhaps two of, and I don't know what that might be, but normally they mark those up a little bit anyway, or make some additions. And so at our next meeting, they would, if they have the time between now and our next meeting, we would receive this draft back with any recommendations that they might have to be shared with this group again excuse me, and then for a final vote that would then send this plan to the board for their perusal, for them to decide if in fact that's the direction that they want to go. And if they don't, if they choose not to do that, then they would send it back to the committee and we again would take a look at it. But the amendment again is to address energy efficiency enrollment issues. It's also address quite a bit of money that's got to be spent in the next 2 years. And so I don't know, I beat around the bush a lot. I don't know if I've answered your question or not, but that's kind of the process.
You definitely clarified something for me and that I was under a misconception of, and I apologize if I've misled anybody, that there will need to be a vote to approve this draft in order to send it to KDE, correct?
Yes, that is correct. And again, you're sending a draft. And that's what it is, a draft. It's nothing in concrete. It's a starting point. And then at our next meeting, we'll review that again. And if there needs to be additions or changes, if we need to address any recommendations that they have, then we'll have opportunity to do that.
Okay, well, I apologize if I have misled anybody. Shame on me, and that's why we've got your experience with us, guiding us along the way. So we will need to approve this draft. That would be the last course of action prior to adjourning this meeting. So the floor is still open for committee discussion. So if you need to see a certain part of that document, Mr. Owens can scroll to it, or if you'd rather just look at each other. I think we all have a copy of it, but sometimes it's easier to see it on your screen. So is there any feedback that any of the committee members have that they'd like to share here in this forum?
Mr. Klein, this is Mr. Moore. I have a question.
Sure.
And in the past, and I know things are a little different with our time crunch and our monies, I'm a little confused, and I know we have to move fast. In the past, we have always been able to look, and I know this is not passed and gone through or recommended, so to speak, but we've always made determinations. And in this case, it looks like the determinations are pretty well, quote unquote, preset for us. And we understand there's other things in the workings and whatnot. And we know that we don't see anything, but since we've done this and then with our, our time crunch and stuff, and I can understand some direction, but we were under the impression we were coming back this time to talk about what all of our schools need. And looking at this, of course, I work at Arlington, so I'm seeing what that is, but I'm looking at the other schools that need things and there's nothing there for them to get. That's my question. Where and what can we do here besides just this to make sure other schools are taken care of? And I understand why Southside would be because if they're going to absorb Arlington, that makes sense to me if that's how it's happened. But the other schools have large price tags and things that they need to be quote unquote up to par, so to speak. So then my question is, what about the other schools here? Is this something that we will not be looking at, or is this just what we're thinking is the best for our county?
My first gut right now is to initially rely on our experts as architects based on their professional opinions of our facilities and their priority status in the process. So that's the first thing, and that's where this draft was generated initially. I will say that if it's on the district facilities plan, then it is, I guess, for lack of a better word, addressable by the board to take an action in a certain direction. It's just, it's about the priority and how the funding structures, and I'm by no means an expert in the facility planning process, so Mr. Galloway or anybody from our architect firm, if you want to help me along the way as I fumble through my words,
Sure.
I will be welcome to feedback.
Mr. Klein, if I could add, this is Justin McElfresh with Sherman Carter Barnhart. So everything that is currently listed on the district facility plan would still be eligible for renovation. The biggest thing that these are really structural changes to the district facility plan that would then give the Board of Education the ability to address the needs that we've identified as some of the needs that are some of the largest that weren't really on here before. So it would, anything that is still in standard or black text, if you will, would still be addressable. Most of those systems or most of those renovations are still eligible for major renovations and are identified on the right-hand side with the need that was developed previously, and those would still apply and would actually, in today's dollars, would still even be more than what is listed on there. But for an amendment, we're just really talking about making structural changes to the current plan so that the additional things can be added. It doesn't eliminate anything that's already on there.
Does
Thank
that
you
answer
very
your question,
much.
Mr. Moore?
Yes, it does. I mean, I was kind of getting the ball rolling. I do appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mr. Klein, could I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this facilities plan, and I guess my question kind of goes to see if this could be something that to Mr. Moore for further clarification. This facilities plan, this is kind of where these other things for other buildings that's addressed on here, where maintenance and facilities kind of go to look to prioritize some of the things that they do throughout our normal years anyway, to look whenever they have extra monies that need to be spent and pull off of this plan to try to help address some of those needs that have already been identified, correct?
Yes, sir, that is my understanding, and I can just point you to a few items. Obviously, under 1B, we are constructing a new Hanson Elementary School, so that is being addressed. If you go all the way down under number 5, discretionary projects, we have built a driver training center field house in Browning Springs. So some of the items on the facility plan have been addressed. There are systems that we have fixed in different buildings that are identified in here for system repair or replacement. I'll just give you an example. A Jesse Stewart Elementary HVAC system, they had a cooling tower installed. That's just one example. Those sorts of things have been addressed. And when you do major projects in Kentucky Public Schools, one of the first questions asked is it on your district facilities plan, and what is the number? Where does it fall? That's one of the questions we're always asked when we're doing the project.
I just knew under our own particular school, when I looked there, I saw some things that maintenance have already taken care of over the last couple of years, such as painting and demolition of mobile units. So I figured that's where that had come from, was off of this plan. So some of these things have already been identified for some of these schools.
Yes, sir. And if I could jump in there on what Marty said, that is the major difference when you're looking at an amendment versus a new district facility plan. The amendment really only deals with the items that you want to change from the previous full district facility plan.
Anyone else have any feedback or questions on the committee? Mr. Falk, I think you're trying to get my attention over here. Sorry.
Yes, I'll speak up here. Talking to the school board members, and I heard your comments about asking about different things that are listed on here and getting them done. They're always something we're looking at to upgrade our facilities. But speaking for all the board members, our goal and our school board team, we're always trying to identify the current financial position and analyze our opportunities. Now, we try to address all these facility issues to offer the most optimal teaching and learning experiences we can for students and staff within our budget. Our board members and I are not in favor of raising taxes. And I'm talking about the board today, we're always looking for options to solve our problems. We've been gathering information for some time addressing the current condition of our building, trying to reduce the need to become more energy efficient, save time and money. We're always trying to maximize each building space and maintain student capacity efficiency. And that's something we're going to continue to look at down the road with our elementary schools and other facilities. The last two decades responding to the storms events, it seems like that's an ongoing process right now. And what can we do to help our students and our communities during the tornadoes? And even the last 2 years with COVID-19, still moving forward, how can we help protect our students, staff, and community? It's important to us. It's important to capitalize on the financial condition of our district at this time. And Ms. Tate, our financial partners, have informed us and the whole team that our county district has $22 million right now in bonding that can be used on our facilities. We also have the $10 million in ESSER funds that we can use for help, and that's a tremendous opportunity for us in our school system, especially for these ESSER funds. But these funds must be utilized by 2014 the way we understand it. All this information has prompted the board to reconvene the LPC. And we leaned on our experts, which is the architects and our financial partners, for a course of action. Closing South Hopkins Middle School and Arlington Elementary School, which are both transitional. And both schools would cost approximately $11 million to renovate if we could. If we were allowed to do so, and that's if we're allowed to do so. But we do think that elevating Southside Elementary School to become 875 students and a preschool to age center would be a great asset. The second part we want the committee to consider is construction of auxiliary gym and storm shelter located at both high schools. We currently have one gym that serves both schools, or one school with both of our bigger, or one gym in both of our bigger schools. It's restricted for some of our students and our teams, especially in scheduling. Our board team has been looking into this project for some time. Of course, it's been on our LPC for some time also, and now could be a good opportunity for us. It could serve as a dual purpose as a tornado storm shelter. It's tied directly to existing building. If there is a tornado event, this is built to withstand up to 200-mile-an-hour winds, so our occupants can seek shelter in this space. Also have bathrooms, power, water. We can have storm supplies. If there should be a lockdown, it provides a safe place for our first responders to arrive. The auxiliary gym complements the main gyms at both schools. It helps with time restraints, basketball, volleyball, dance teams, cheerleading teams, ROTC, school dances, graduation events, other community functions. Unexpected benefit from the auxiliary gym. Also, especially right now, as it opens up the space, not only for the athletics, for our everyday COVID-19 distance restrictions that we're having to deal with now. Hopefully making it easier to manage. Also, having this new space could open up opportunities for gymnastics or wrestling. Also, we should look, and we will look, and there's grants from the Federal Emergency Management Agency that have been awarded for projects like this. So it's something I think we all should check into. Plus the extra gym, it offers opportunities and the benefits of hosting tournaments. Keeping our money and our kids at home, especially around Christmas time, and advantage of saving on transportation costs here and there and safety. you know, these projects also could save us up to $1 million in utility costs and other costs, if we can do this, or if we do this. It's just something we need to look at. It's something to talk about. I mean, it's feel that it could help us maximize our opportunities. It also supports our new, you know, supports both ends of the county and all our areas of our community. You know, with new facilities on the north end, on the south end, and then with the addition to gyms at both high schools. So it's just something we've been thinking about, we've been talking about, and we're glad it's out here and we can all look at it and have discussion on it.
Thank you, Mr. Falk. Anybody else have any further discussion or any comment based on that? Mr. Galloway, are we leaving anything out at this point?
No, I don't think so. I think, if there are any questions that any of the LPC members have based on that, based on the presentation from Mr. Owens and Mr. Michael Fresh, now's the time to do that. Again, if we could accept and approve this draft, we could at least get the ball moving toward some type of final destination as we think about these funds that are going to sunset, and give us a week. Again, if we approve the draft tonight, if we come back next week and members have questions, then those can be addressed at that time, and changes, if necessary, could be made at that time also. So if there's no other comments, we need to determine if we want to accept the draft.
I will make a motion that we approve and accept the draft
Okay.
as read.
I have a motion from Mr. Eric Stone, and I'm documenting a little bit here, Mr. Stone, so I apologize. Do I have a second on the?
I'll second it, Peter Hughes.
Peter Hughes, Joint
Yes.
Planning.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your second. We're going to do this via a roll call vote now, please. If you would be so kind as to indulge us. So as I call your name, please give me a yay or nay, if you would, verbally. Kylie Bashir.
I'll give a yay.
Matt Bashir.
Yay.
Dr. Beth Beverly.
Yay.
I vote yay. Wendy Eves.
Yay.
Steve Falk.
Yay.
Peter Hughes.
Yay, sir.
George Jones. Yay. Scott Moore.
Yay.
Tina Payton.
Yay.
Amy Smith is non-voting. Eric Stone.
Yay.
Lenise Stone.
Yay.
Megan Teal.
Yay.
Burt Reynolds / John Wells.
Yay.
It appears that we have unanimous approval of this DFP amendment to be sent to the Kentucky Department of Education for comments. Mr. Galloway, do you see any reason to not move forward with that at this point?
I do not. And again, if it's okay, I'll just go ahead and kind of explain what our next steps are. Is that okay for me to do that now?
Absolutely.
Okay, here's what will happen. We'll send that to KDE tonight or in the morning as it is. They'll take a look at it and hopefully we'll get it back by midweek where we can review it, and where before the meeting next Thursday night, you will have an opportunity to review it. And then the meeting next Thursday night, if there's little or no recommendations from KDE, then again, we'll need to vote to accept the final draft and to forward it to the local Board of Education. There will be, again, there will be an opportunity at that time for any discussion that anyone might have, but if there is no discussion, then there will be the meeting won't be, we won't have a long meeting next time because you've already heard the presentation. So I'll stop there and let you add whatever you wish.
Yes, sir. As far as next steps go immediately, here in just a few moments, we will adjourn this meeting and we will reconvene for the LPC Public Forum. That is a venue that we still must have a quorum present for, and I would like our community partners, architects and financial partners to stay on if possible to help us, because the public has an opportunity at that point to ask questions and to have dialogue with the committee and our community partners to help understand a little bit more if your questions, if their questions are still available. So that would happen no sooner than 6 o'clock, but beyond that, when that public forum closes, we will be prepared to reconvene at 5 p.m. on the 10th, next week. And the intention is to be in person, but we will also have a Zoom link as well. So that is obviously contingent upon what the Kentucky Department of Education does, because if they are not able to get us the proper amount of feedback between now and then that may push that meeting out. We hope that that we have been able to get that information to them in advance a little bit so that that doesn't take as long as it might typically do so. So those are our next steps. Any last points of discussion before we move to adjourn?
Let me ask you this. It's my understanding, and I'm not sure where it is in the manual, and I haven't looked at it, but it is not necessary for every LPC member to stay for the public forum unless you just want to do that. Is that the way you understand it, Mr. Klein?
That is true, but my understanding in the process is that we must maintain a quorum present for that meeting, and a quorum of this meeting is 10 members. Unless Ms. Smith is one of those 10, then it becomes 11 because she is non-voting. The quorum is 10 voting members on this 20-person committee because we have 19 voting members. And I'm looking at my a quorum of the LPC must be present to constitute an official LPC forum. I just read that in the manual, Mr. Galloway. So we must have at least 10 of us on this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I make a motion. Scott Moore.
Scott Moore with the motion to adjourn. Is there a second? I'll second. George Jones with the second. Anyone opposed? This meeting of the LPC is adjourned. We will reconvene at 6 o'clock for the public forum. That's about 10 minutes. We encourage each of you to participate, but if you are unable, we understand. Just hope we can continue to have a quorum so we can have that meeting. See you in a few moments. Right. Welcome everyone to the LPC DFP Public Forum number 1. I want to welcome everybody that is joining us virtually. We appreciate your attendance. As per reg, we have to verify all of those that are in attendance. So I will do a roll call of the LPC members, and then we'll let our guests that are with us introduce themselves. Once we are finished with that, for those that wish to speak, we ask that you put in the chat feature that your request to speak. Just say, I would like to ask a question. That way we have a record of who is willing to speak and in the order in which they requested to speak. And we will call on those people individually. And Mr. Taylor, our technology wizard in this room, will unmute you to ask your question or to have your feedback. And then we'll give the committee an opportunity to respond to any questions or any dialogue. So I'm going to first check our attendance with our committee members. Please verify your attendance verbally. Kylie Bashir.
Here.
Matt Bashir.
Here.
Dr. Beth Beverly.
I'm present.
Sheila Carter. Wendy Eves.
I'm here.
Steve Falk. Here. Peter Hughes.
Here, sir.
Travis Sypox. George Jones. Here. Ryan McGuire. Scott Moore.
Present.
Tina Payton.
Here.
Chuck Shockley. Amy Smith.
Here.
Eric Stone.
Here.
Lenise Stone.
I'm here.
Megan Teal.
I'm here.
John Wells.
Here.
Is
Did you get that, Mr. Klein?
I did, sir. Thank you. Okay, and now our non-committee members. As I look across the screen, we have our facilitator, Mr. Pete Galloway, is here. I see him. We have Jennifer Hibbs. We have Damon Fleming. We have Andrew Owens from Sherman Carter Barnhart Architects. We have Mr. John Osborne, board member. We have Mr. Mark Rawlings of Baird Financial. We have Lori Harrison, our communication specialist. We have Edie Tate, our CFO for the district. We have Justin McElfresh, principal at Sherman Carter Barnhart. We have Julie Baum, Arlington Elementary principal. We have Wendy Mitchell, director of elementary instruction and preschool for the district. As I'm going through my list, I have Jan Ritchie, principal of South Hopkins.
Here.
I have Dr. J.W. Durst, board member. I have Kirk Hilbrecht of Run Switch. I have Steve Gillum, former administrator here in Hopkins County Schools and retired, and we're jealous. I have Erica Stark, principal at Southside. I have an Ashley, not sure who Ashley is.
She is with Run Switch, Mr. Klein.
Okay, I didn't know if that was Run Switch's Ashley. Okay, is there anyone else that has joined us that I have failed to recognize? I thought I saw Mr. Shannon Embry on here earlier. Is he still with us? I don't see him. Okay. Anybody in the waiting room, Mr. Taylor? Okay. I have verified attendance for all of those. If anybody else comes into the waiting room, Mr. Taylor, please let us know so we can document accordingly. All right. Mr. Galloway, I'm going to defer to your expertise when it comes to the public forum. If you wouldn't mind to address everyone on the public forum, I've already kind of laid out the process, and those of you that are wishing to speak, you can go ahead and be entering your request to speak, comment, or question in the chat feature at this time. Mr. Galloway, if you wouldn't mind to address the group. Are you allowing him to address the group? Drew?
Okay, I'm ready now. I didn't mash the
All right.
right button. I'm sorry about that.
That's
I think
okay.
it would be good at this point for me to make just a brief statement to everyone, similar to what I made to the committee last week when we started this process. But so if you'll bear with me, just a quick brief overview of the district facility plan process. The LPC committee, or most of the LPC committee that's seated now, was selected I guess, a couple of years ago, and that term serves through, I believe, June of 23. And there's been a few retirements and a few folks that's left, and some of you have replaced some of those people. But you have new superintendent, new assistant superintendent since this plan was approved in going back to June of 2019. But during a 4-year period, things can change in a district. Things such as perhaps different curriculums, enrollments change, unforeseen occurrences or disasters could occur. Sometimes we get additional funding, and that's the case. That's one of the cases for us tonight here. But anytime there is a change to the district facility plan that was approved to guide the district for 4 years, then there is a vehicle that we use to do that, and it's called the amendment process. Certain steps have to be followed for that to happen. Your school board has followed those steps. They've determined that there is a need. They asked the Kentucky Department of Education permission to reconvene our local planning committee. We had a meeting a week ago, a little over a week ago, and then the committee just finished meeting at about 5:45 this afternoon. At our first meeting, district personnel shared with the group various things that pertain to the Hopkins County schools. Our architects, Mr. Michael Fresh and Mr. Owen, representing Sherman Carter Barnhart, shared with the committee what they had found as they went into each of our schools, each of your schools. They went through each of your schools, each of your facilities, and they shared with us the energy efficiency or inefficiency in some cases, and also the classroom space at some of the buildings that was available. They talked about that. Our fiscal agents, Mr. Carl Boyd, Mr. Mark Rollins, representing Baird, shared with us what you owe and what the district's bonding potential is, or what you have available to spend. And that, along with some additional funding, it was determined that perhaps we need to amend the district facility plan. We asked Sherman Carter Barnhart to do that last Tuesday night. They have since, based on the information that they received or that they found when they was in the buildings, they have since come back with a draft. The LPC reviewed that draft at 5 o'clock this afternoon. There was some discussion. The draft was voted on and approved to send to the Kentucky Department of Education for their review and any recommendations that they might have to change that. Following that, then, according to the process, to the regulation, the general public must be given. Yes, sir. Do you need me, Mr. Klein?
Sorry, sir, I had needed to add somebody in that came in, and I was trying to clarify that. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. I'll just finish by saying that the public forum process gives the general public the option to add any comments that they might have or to ask any questions that they might have. And the regulation says that you have to register. We have to share with you the district facility plan if there is anyone that wants to know more about that. And then probably the question that we ask ourselves when we started this process is, what facilities or buildings do we need to improve in Hopkins County to provide our kids here in Hopkins County the best possible educational opportunity? So that's kind of where we are. That plan was presented tonight. If there is anyone at the forum that wants to speak or wants to know more information about that plan or about the finances, Mr. Rollins is here, Sherman Carter's here. And so I'll stop there, Mr. Klein, who is our chairman, and ask where we go from here as far as, are there folks who have questions?
Again, if you have questions or you wish to speak, please enter into the chat that request. All you have to do is type in there, I would like to speak, if at all possible. If you have a different device where that is impossible for you to do so, or you are struggling to do so, if there's a raise their hand feature, or you can just wave your hands vehemently across the screen with your camera on, and we'll try to recognize you and give you an opportunity to give input. But the chat feature allows us to make sure we're not going out of order with somebody that we speak. So if you wish to speak, please put that in the chat, that request. And Mr. Taylor, do we have any chat requests to speak at this point? So I have my chat open. I do not have anything there just yet. Give you a few minutes to put any information in there as possible. Thank you. I would like to welcome to the meeting Jamie Moss of West Hopkins and Mr. Brandon McLean, principal at Jesse Stewart. Taylor, am I missing anything? I did not see anything in the chat at this point. Since we do not have anything in the chat at this point, I would like to try to visually recognize anyone who is wishing to speak if they don't have the ability to put their request in the chat. So, Mr. Jones, as my vice chair, if you'll help me look on the screen to recognize anyone that wishes to speak as well as we navigate. We have a lot of people on, so there are multiple screens we're trying to sift through. So, I'm seeing anything. Any committee members wish to speak or share with any members of the public anything that they may wish to, now that this is open to the complete public where they can rebut anything that you communicate, that may prompt some questions if anybody has anything that way. Otherwise, I'm not sure how much longer that we'll need to be here, Mr. Galloway. I'll need your guidance on this one. I can speak. I believe you're muted, Mr. Galloway.
Okay. If there's not any further comments, if nobody has any questions at all for us, as we said last time, those people on the committee have my email address. Those that are listening can contact Mr. Klein if there is any question that you might have or that might come up, and we'll do our very best to answer that. But I think we've been long enough. If there are no questions, I think a motion to adjourn would be in order.
One last check of the chat. And I don't see anybody visually. Can I entertain a motion for adjournment?
I will give you a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Eric Stone. Second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Tina Payton. All opposed? This public forum is now adjourned. You have no idea how thankful we are for your attendance, everyone.